Good morning and welcome to the show. We're waking up with our friends at Marine Max with the manager's special of the week. John, what have we got?
Well, we have a beautiful 16-foot Scarab jet boat, and Eric Davis is going to tell you all about it.
Well, thanks so much. Eric, tell me a little bit about
Don.
this boat.
Good morning. Well, we're excited to have the Scarab line. Got it started last year, and this 16-foot boat is a great way to take a small family or a small group of people, go out and have a lot of fun on the water. It will take 5 people in it, and you can also got enough room for a cooler to stretch out for a day at Shell Island, run around the bay.
You know, as the name implies, jet boat, this may be fast. It even looks fast.
It is fast. It's got a Rotax engine, and this particular model has 150 horsepower. Wow. So it will get everybody up and going, whether you want to tube or ski or just run around the bay. This is a great boat to do that.
150 horsepower
That's
in this
right.
little boat.
Mm-hmm.
Holy mackerel. Now, if we can take a look in here, I mean,
Sure.
These seats look super comfortable. They almost look like race car driver seats.
Well, exactly. They are, and it'll sit you back in the seat really well when you take off.
I bet.
Each individual seat like that gives you a little more security. There are plenty of grab handles around.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because of the performance, you can keep yourself in the boat and really roll out and have a great time.
Yeah, and I really like the controls and the wheel. It's just, it almost looks like a race car.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's a very sporty design, and eventually you'll probably see certain charter companies starting to run trips on these type of boats because the whole family can be together and sit side by side, have conversations, and run all over the place.
So you can zip around in the bay or even out on the Gulf, I guess.
Sure. What's really great about it is the overall weight of this package. Most of the smaller RVs that people tend to have now can pull this with no problem.
Oh, really?
It still falls within their weight capacity, their towing capacity. This whole package full of fuel is roughly around 2,400 pounds. So a lot of those smaller RVs can tow it, and it'll fit in just about any garage or even some of these larger storage facilities. For people that live out of town, they can just keep it down here rather than trailering it back and forth.
It is a great size. I mean, it is. It's something you can pull behind a family SUV.
Absolutely.
You got a great little trailer. It'll fit in your garage, too.
Absolutely.
You don't have to make your neighbors mad by putting this thing out in your
That's
driveway.
right. That's right. Absolutely.
And do many families go for these type boats?
Well, they do. We're starting to see a bigger trend towards the jet product. The main reason is people with younger children look for the jet because there's no propeller to turn. They see it as an added level of safety. And with that, when you're at Shell Island, this boat is really featured nice with 2 of these aft-facing seats. And of course, you have cup holders. People can jump off, swim around this boat, and it just is a really nice all-around package.
That's right, and you can sit a few people. You don't just have to go fast, because I noticed you've got cup holders too, so you can just hang out on this thing for a while.
That's
and have a really good
exactly
time.
what these are for. Absolutely.
Wow. And what are some of the other features of this boat that we may not be seeing here?
Well, one of the nice things historically, jet boats, when you crank the engine, you're moving forward. And what Scarab has done to address that, it sometimes makes it difficult to handle around a dock, certain marinas. And the Scarab jet boat has some interesting technology in the jet itself that allows you to steer that boat, and it has a true neutral. So at idle, you can maneuver that boat, and for some people, they're much easier to drive than even the standard propulsion and outboard boats.
What do you mean by a true neutral? Are jet boats always moving forward?
Well, like a jet ski, most people are aware that when a jet ski is running, you're moving in one direction or the other, forward or reverse. And some of them have some clever ways to vector that thrust. Scarab has done the same thing, but there's a balancing act within a cast aluminum plate here on the back of the jet that will allow that thrust to negate itself. It moves neither forward nor backward, sitting in one place.
So you could actually, you know, stay in one place. I mean, if you just wanted to stop and enjoy the view for a few minutes,
Sure.
You know, it takes the hassle out of trying to, you know.
Right. Well, and if you're picking up a skier, you come up to the skier rather than having to shut the motor off. Again, we don't have any propeller, very safe, and it'll allow you to idle up and sit, pull the skier aboard, and on to the next person.
Eric, thanks so much for showing me this
Sure,
Scarab.
Don.
It's just it's a beautiful little boat, and I think a little family might do well to have this under the tree for Christmas.
I agree.
Thanks a lot. We got to run off to the local weather, and we'll be right back after the weather, brought to you by the West Pittman Law Firm, westpittmanlawfirm.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Tara Griffin at Emerald Coast Dental Sleep Medicine, right out here on Panama City Beach. Dr. Griffin, thanks for letting us behind the scenes here again today. I know we talked a lot about TMJ.
Yes.
And you had mentioned something about a laser that you have here to treat TMJ. Before we talk about the laser, Can you briefly describe what TMJ is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's when patients have, often they have pain or clicking, popping in the joints, and it's very uncomfortable for them.
What causes that? Is that
different things can cause it. Everything from an imbalance in the muscles, imbalance in the joints, underdevelopment in the middle part of the face, stress.
maybe an injury?
Injuries, absolutely.
Maybe get in a car wreck or something?
Yeah, certainly that can aggravate things, definitely.
So how do you typically fix that? I mean, if your jaw is out of joint, I don't know if that's a medical term or not, but...
Yeah. It can be. It can be like dislocated, things like that can happen, especially after you said wrecks, injuries, and whatnot. But what we do is we look to see what the diagnosis is, you know, what we can do to try to resolve it. And sometimes it might be a splint, a night guard, something like that for
just
the
to kind of get the
use.
jaw back in alignment.
Yeah, absolutely. To take the teeth out of the equation, you know, allow the jaw to be in a good position. And often we use our laser in combination with that type of treatment.
So what exactly does a laser do? So you've got the jaw back in position, but maybe the muscles that holding that in place are kind of out of...
Yeah, absolutely. So it helps to reduce pain and inflammation. Anywhere in the head and neck is where we use it. And that's what it's doing. It's working at a cellular level to target those specific things. And so when the muscle is tight or tense, overworked, out of place, it helps to neutralize it, basically.
So how does that work? Well, I see you've got one right there.
Yes,
but,
we do.
Just by coincidence, you happen to have one here. But how does it actually work? I mean, you had mentioned before we started shooting that there were 2 wavelengths in this laser?
Yeah, there are. There are 2 different types of wavelengths. One, again, that's specifically treating pain, and one that's treating inflammation. And so, therefore, it makes it very effective. There's also a continuous and a pulse wave that's coming out of it. So it's different than most other lasers. And it makes it extremely effective in reducing, you know, the pain and the inflammation.
So you would take that and you would actually apply that to a
absolutely.
patient's jaw or head, or
certainly you just rub it over the muscle, the back of the neck here, the shoulders, you know, anywhere. Patients that have migraines, that's another good thing to be able to treat with this. So there's no pain associated with it. It's very comfortable, and we actually ask patients when they come in and before we treat them what pain level they have at that time, and you know, anywhere from 1 to 10, with 10 being the worst pain they could ever imagine, and 1, you know, hardly anything. And typically, after a few minutes of getting this treatment done, their pain will be reduced in half immediately.
So if I have TMJ, or I have an issue with the way my jaw is feeling, and you decide that that's the best therapy for me, how often do I have to do this?
Well, it depends on the severity of your problem, but it could be a series of treatments, maybe coming in 2 to 3 times a week for 2, maybe 3 weeks. It just depends on the problem that you have. And typically after a few visits, the pain is reduced, if not eliminated, and in most cases it actually doesn't even reoccur. If we can get to the root cause of the problem, and again use a splint or a guard, something to help balance everything out while we're doing this, the body can actually help to recover and repair itself.
And you could be fixed forever.
You could be, absolutely. That's the goal. That's what we shoot for. Not every case we can guarantee that. However, we have seen the results that this can provide, and so that has made the treatment just, you know, that much better for patients.
Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. So if I have problems sleeping due to TMJ, and maybe I want to avail myself of that laser therapy, or maybe just get your opinion on whether or not I need it, all I need to do is stop in here or give you guys a call at 249-9331.
Yes.
Dr. Tara Griffin, thanks so much for explaining the laser therapy and TMJ to us. And if you're not sleeping well, come on out to Emerald Coast Dental Sleep Medicine out on Panama City Beach. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is David Lovett, and this is your Mad Hatter Minute. Preventative maintenance is critical to keeping your vehicle running properly. Everyone knows that you need to change the engine oil and do periodic tune-ups, but no one remembers to do the timing belt. The timing belt is part of your vehicle that's located behind the timing cover, and it's not visible when you open your hood. It's a rubber belt, just like your serpentine belt or V-belts that are visible when you open your hood. Timing belts synchronize the rotation of the engine's camshaft and crankshaft so that the valves open and close at the proper strokes. Some vehicles have engines that are called interference engines, which means that the valves open and close based off the rotation of the timing belt. pistons move up and down, valves move up and down. Should that timing belt break while you're driving, pistons continue to move, the valves drop, and there's a likelihood that the piston will strike the valve and either bend the valve or actually puncture the piston. Should your timing belt break while you're driving, it could be a very expensive repair, or it could be a complete engine replacement. Don't be surprised if the shop replacing the timing belt also recommends replacing the cam seals and the crank seals. It's best to spend a few extra dollars to have those seals replaced when you're doing the timing belt, rather than run the risk of getting oil all over the brand new timing belt and have the timing slip. Best advice is to change the engine timing belt every 60,000 miles. I am David Lovett, and that has been your Mad Hatter Minute.
Hey folks, this is Joshua Brown with Mad Hatter on 23rd Street. Is your check engine light on? If it is, text MADHAT28, that's MADHAT28, to 24247 and we'll check it for free.
Welcome back to the show. I'm here with Dr. Stephen Favaloro from Forest Park Animal Hospital to give us some pet health tips. And it's cold out, Doc.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people have their dogs outside during the cold.
Right.
You really need to take those guys in at night, don't you?
Well, there's a lot of those things, the dogs have to go outside. A lot of us have, like we say, the dogs have gone from the backyard to the bedroom. So, you have a lot of dogs that mainly live inside, and they'll go outside and play for a long period of time.
Well, you let them out in the afternoon to
Absolutely,
do their thing.
but then you also have dogs who strictly live outside and, they don't have any way to get inside. And so when it gets really cold, we have to consider, their well-being, because, everyone thinks, oh, the dogs will be fine, but that's not always true. I mean, if the temperatures get down, 30 degrees, and there's a nice wind out there, they'll get cold very, very quickly.
And they're hardy souls, dogs. They're survivors, of
course.
Well,
they are, but like when you have younger dogs or older dogs, they don't have as much muscle and they don't have as much fat to protect themselves, and they don't move around as much. And particularly in the older dogs, they may be more immunocompromised. Their arthritis is acting up. They can't move around as much.
Just like we have our little issues as we get older, so do they.
So, if you have a dog or a cat even that you can't bring inside, make sure you provide shelter for them, particularly against the wind and the rain, or if it ever snows, not that it snows a lot around here, it's snow, because those winds will bring their temperature down really quickly. And, so have some shelter to provide for those things. And then also too, put some bedding in there to help keep them warm. So
if they have their little Snoopy dog house in the backyard, make sure it's comfortable, not just a bare wooden floor.
But you have to consider the personality of your dog. So if your dog's a real big chewer, I wouldn't put blankets out there, because then they're going to chew it up and swallow, and now you got a whole other problem. So, you can do straw bedding or things like that. Make sure it doesn't have a lot of parasites or insects in it. But cedars can be irritating, so maybe try to avoid cedar. But, things like that. If you do have a dog that's not necessarily a indiscriminate chewer, then, you can put some, blankets out there. They even have heated, pet beds, but then you have to kind of watch the cord, make sure they don't chew those, although most of those have kind of a spiral protected against it. But you get a motivated dog and that won't stop them for very long.
Most people I know keep their dogs indoor. I'm sure there's some outdoor dogs out there somewhere, but they keep them indoors. Are there other hazards that we should look out for? I mean, say you're just letting the dog out for an hour or two to run in the backyard in the middle of a cold day on the afternoon.
Like say that you have access to a pond that's frozen, or they go in the water, they play in the water. Well, they get wet, they're going to get cold very quickly. You can get frostbite if you got cold enough in between their toes, the tips of their ears, their nose. So if they get wet, you're going to need to dry them off pretty quickly. Like we talked about before, antifreeze is a big thing. People are, changing the antifreeze in their car, and if the people who do it themselves, want to dispose of that, because otherwise, within 6 hours of ingestion, they're already showing clinical signs. And when they start showing clinical signs, it's already too late to save them.
A little puddle of antifreeze in the driveway could actually kill your dog.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I've heard that antifreeze tastes sweet. Is that true?
It's supposed to have a sweet taste to it.
Not that
I'm going by their word. Absolutely. And once again, like, maybe this will apply more up north, but they'll put a lot of the things down that'll melt, salt to melt the snow.
Sure.
Well, you're walking your dog, they get foot pads that'll get cut, or that can be very irritating. If they lick it, it could upset their stomach.
Even just a hard frozen ground would probably.
Well, certainly, it could be an unsure, kind of like a not a sure-footed surface, so they can you know, fall, hurt themselves that way.
Yeah. Not like my dog. My dog, I let her out in the backyard. If the temperatures aren't just right, she won't even step off the porch.
Yeah.
So that's okay, I'll hold it.
No, I'm not going.
I'm not going.
So, you know, the two biggest things that get dogs that are, you know, when it's cold outside, dehydration and hypothermia. So if you can keep them warm, and then make sure that they have adequate water supply, you know, and check on them every day.
You can get dehydrated in the wintertime.
Absolutely. They can't get enough. They can't stay hydrated by licking ice and eating snow. They can't do that. I mean, they just can't get enough of it. So they do make heated water bowls. You know, it doesn't make the water real warm. It keeps it cold. It just prevents it from freezing. You know, you can get booties that you can put booties on so they don't get, you know, their feet cold. Jackets and sweaters. I mean, they sell them all over the place, you know, just to help keep them warm.
But above all, you need to take them in at night, or at least make sure they're warm in the
Absolutely,
evenings.
you know, try to get them in. But if you can't, make sure that you protect them from the environment, wind, rain, you know, and give them good warm bedding. And check on them every day, you know.
Yeah. Dr. Stephen Favaloro, thanks a lot for those winter pet tips.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back. Welcome back to the show. I have Colonel Mike Vallier here from 1st Air Force in the continental U.S. NORAD region out at Tyndall Air Force Base. And right here in Bay County, Tyndall Air Force Base, they coordinate all the air defenses for the United States, but they also make sure Santa gets to his appointed rounds on Christmas Eve. Colonel Vallier, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Don. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, you guys have been helping Santa, and NORAD has been helping Santa for quite a few years now, haven't they?
We have. We have been helping Santa for 59. This is our 59th year. So we have a lot of experience with Santa and helping him get to where he needs to be.
Now, you know, for people who may not know, NORAD is, what does NORAD stand for?
North American Aerospace Defense Command. They're located in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
And that's where this whole NORAD tracking Santa thing started.
It did. It started as a kind of a mistake by the Sears Roebuck Company. They printed out on paper a number to call Santa, and that number happened to go directly to the Director of Operations for NORAD. So
at the height of the Cold War.
At the height of the Cold War, so he picks up the phone and obviously didn't want to let a kid down, so he pretended and went along with it.
That he was Santa.
Absolutely, that he was tracking Santa, and he directed his staff to continue to do that through the night, and that's how NORAD Track Santa was born.
And now for over half a century, NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command, has been tracking Santa, and it's not just the U.S. forces. And our partners, the Canadians.
Our partners in Canada, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
think of that whole North Pole part of the mission.
Where it's really cold, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so it is a binational command. So the United States, along with Canada, we partner to track Santa and ensure that Santa gets to all his destinations safely.
How do we peek in and see his progress? I know you've got all these computers and radars out there, but how do we do this at home if the kids want to see how Santa's doing?
In this day and age, the internet obviously is very common, so NORADSanta.org.
NORADSanta.org.
Absolutely, or they can call directly to 1-877-HI-NORAD.
1-877-HI-NORAD.
And they can get real-time updates of where Santa is located. And on the internet, we have installed some cameras throughout the world where you can actually get live footage of his present position. So
sort of like red light cameers, but they're for Santa.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Not that he gets any red light. He gets a green light from NORAD.
He's got a green light. He goes wherever he wants, and we're just there to help him out and make sure he gets there safely.
Have there been any threats to Santa? I know we have some enemies out there now that just want to disrupt,
Santa is the common theme. Is just everybody loves Santa around the world. So there's never been any threats against Santa.
Okay, so we don't have to worry about him, Middle East, anti-aircraft guns.
Everybody in the Middle East, Afghanistan, any country in the Middle East, they love Santa also.
Everybody loves Santa. Well, so we'll see about that one,
absolutely.
Well, that's awesome. So now, one thing, because you're going to be tracking Santa, that means that people are going to be working out there Christmas Eve and Christmas Day?
We are 24/7 operation. We stand ready every single day, every single night to defend the skies of North America. So we're always working. And what we do, we just take this additional task the evening of the 24th and the 25th, and we add it on, and just to ensure that like I said, Santa gets to where he needs to be.
And it's another day at work, and that's the important thing that people need to remember, that people in uniform, civilians, DOD civilians, our Canadian partners, and a whole plethora of other people are out there working through the holidays to ensure that we're not just Santa's safe, but we're safe at home.
Absolutely. We stand ready. We have to watch. Absolutely.
Yeah, so 24/7. Now, are you guys going to do anything special on the ops floor?
Well, what we usually do, we'll bring in some food. We do kind of a potluck, and we'll make turkey and cakes, and just to ensure that we're well fed through the night.
That's right, and you'll be up all night tracking Santa and guarding us from
Absolutely.
all airborne threats.
All airborne threats, that's our primary mission, and like I said, the evening of the 24th, we track Santa.
Okay, and that website again is?
NORADSanta.org.
NORADSanta.org. Colonel Valle and all the men and women out there at Tyndall Air Force Base, thank you for everything that you do.
It's my pleasure.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you, John. Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.